Mr. Putin has escalated. He has escalated on the escalations. He is firing from nearly all the points around the compass into Ukraine in hundreds and thousands, and we are telling Ukraine no. And so I think the first thing that needs to happen is a public, declaratory, loud and proud pronunciation by the West, to include the United States, that one, Mr. Putin, we are not going to allow you to win this war. And two, we are going to allow Ukraine to begin to carry on a deep counter-force fight.
Hello and welcome to Independence Avenue Media. I'm your host, Iameur Micheli, and I have the pleasure of speaking with General Philip Breedlove today. We'll be talking about President Trump's announcement that he will reduce the 50-day deadline given to Russia earlier to 10 to 12 days, which will expire on August 5th or 7th. We'll be also discussing Russia's summer offensive, NATO's increased role in coordinating support for Ukraine, and other topics related to the war in Ukraine. In the meantime, I would like to remind you to subscribe to our channel and watch other interviews that we have available for you, and follow us on social media, wherever you are on social media. And with that, General Breedlove is a 4-star retired general who served in the U.S. military for 39 years. And one of his last positions in the military was he was the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. General Breedlove, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's good to be back with you.
Thank you very much. Let's start from President Trump's announcement. We saw yesterday where he said that he's decreasing the 50-day deadline that he gave to Russia to 10 or 12. So we're talking about August 5th or August 7th. What do you think happened? Why do you think he changed his mind?
Well, as has happened across the last 4 or 5 times we've tried to make peace overtures to Russia, Russia ends up sort of rebuking America, sending massive attacks into Ukraine to make a point. And sometimes senior Russian leaders come out with their own pronunciations. And what we have seen from Russia's most senior leadership across the last few weeks since the first announcement of 50 days is Russia says 50 days is not enough and they're not going to make it. So they basically took Mr. Trump's, our U.S. president's offer, and very publicly, very loudly, very proudly said, we're not going to do that. And so I think President Trump is beginning to see that Mr. Putin is not a partner for peace, and he never was a partner for peace, and he never will be a partner for peace. And so I think President Trump has decided, okay, I'm not going to give him 50 days to have protected attack time on Ukraine. I'm going to shorten his timeline and force his hand, and we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Russians reacted already to this. There are some statements that are basically threatening a war with the United States. What do you think that means?
Well, this is a long history of how Russia has tried to maneuver the West. I don't know if you're familiar with the term reflexive control, but essentially Russia's been running a reflexive control sort of regime on the West, and it's worked magnificently. I mean, we have given Russia so many concessions in this war against Ukraine. Essentially, the West has guaranteed sanctuary for Russia for years and years. Remember, this war is really 11 years old. I don't get it how people say it's 3 or 3.5 years old. It's 11 years old. And across that whole time, Russia has used the threat of tactical nuclear weapons and the threat of World War III to reflexively control the West, and it's worked magnificently. And so it doesn't surprise me that they go back to the tool that has worked so well. Why change when it's working? They will threaten us with nukes. They will threaten us with World War III, and we'll see how the West reacts.
But they did not have President Trump's sort of character against those threats before this. So we'll
This
see.
is a change. I mean, the good news is there were many of us that didn't, personally agree with the 50 days. But what we really liked was the fact that the president has made the determination that he doesn't have a partner for peace in Putin, and he's got to start upping the game, making costs rise on Mr. Putin. And so he announced his 50 days. Well, a lot of people said the same thing. They said, well, golly, that's 50 days to pound Ukraine. And then we'll start a whole nother regime with the U.S. president. But President Trump, I believe, has seen through this. Like I said, I believe now he understands he never did have a partner for peace. He does not have a partner for peace right now, and he never will in the future. And Russia has made that very clear in the words they've used since Mr. Trump put out the 50-day. And now you've seen some even more frantic replies from Russia after the 10 to 12-day pronunciation.
President Trump, 2 weeks ago, announced that Ukraine basically can have unlimited supplies of weapons. Not in these words, but he said that as long as NATO allies and European partners will pay for the weapons, American produced weapons, Ukraine can have anything and everything. Do you have any insight into that? What is Ukraine getting? Are we talking about some of the weapons that maybe they did not have before? Like there's a conversation about JASSMs that Ukraine may be receiving those. Do you know anything about what sort of weaponry are we talking
Well, the
about?
JASSM would be a magnificent weapon, but I don't think that's on the table right now because Russia fears the JASSM, especially the JASSM ER, the more stealthy and long range version of it. I have not heard the discussion of JASSM. I would personally be very happy to see the United States enter into a conversation about JASSM. But also the current aircraft flying in Ukraine would take significant modification to carry JASSM
Yeah.
missiles. But what I hear is basically what you've actually seen in the press. I haven't heard anything through my channels that's different. You know, there are Patriots, there are possibly more Javelins, there are a lot of smaller weapons that they need. Some of them, quote unquote, offensive, but not deep striking capabilities. And so we'll all find this out. I read an interesting article yesterday that one of the American firms has signed a deal with Ukraine, maybe via NATO. I don't know how the funding is working, but they're going to sell them about 30 um, electronic boards to be installed in Ukrainian missiles that gives them AI and will make them much more lethal, much more capable, and will overcome a lot of the jamming and electronic warfare techniques of the Russians. And so that'll make 30,000 weapons much more lethal as Ukraine builds its own kit to attack Russia. I think what we'll see over the next days, weeks, and months is that with money available, there will be a lot of U.S. capability that will begin to be added to the Ukrainian arsenal, and some of it will be quite capable kit.
What's your view on NATO's new role that we are witnessing right now? When President Trump announced this, made the statement that we talked about just now, NATO Secretary General Rutte was with him, which of course emphasized the role that NATO will be playing in this. What do you think about that? NATO coordinating acquisition, distribution of the weapons for Ukraine. Do you think that's a good idea, bad idea?
Well, I really like the idea that NATO is even more involved because that shows to the American president that they are involved and that they see their role and their requirement. I do not believe that because NATO becomes more involved that the U.S. should become less involved. I want to see both. I want to see NATO leading and as the president has intimated, helping in the funding of this. But what I really want to see is American leadership remaining a big part of NATO.
And it seems like the whole world is, or at least the European side of the world, is looking for that, because President Trump's announcement about reducing the number of days for Russia was met with a lot of excitement.
I hate to keep saying this, but I need to say it one more time. The NATO leadership has seen weeks, months, and even longer ago that Mr. Putin and Russia was not going to participate in building a peace, a durable peace in Ukraine. They have no interest whatsoever, none, in a durable peace in Ukraine. They want a Pax Russia, a peace that is beneficial to Russia, that allows Russia to dominate politics, dominate economics, dominate security in Ukraine. And that is not what the rest of the world wants. And so I think that that NATO and the EU and all our partners around the world have sort of recognized that over time. And I think that what they're excited about in Europe is they're beginning to see that the U.S. administration is also beginning to understand. I won't say it, but one more time. Putin never was a partner in finding peace. He is not a partner in finding peace now, and he never will be a partner for finding peace in Ukraine.
What's your assessment of what's happening with the summer offensive, Russia's summer offensive in Ukraine, and what do you think is happening on the front lines right now? How is the situation?
So what we see is basically three elements. The first element is that the actual on the ground army offensive by Russia is doing almost nothing. You've heard all the numbers. We won't go over them here, but gaining tiny bits of ground at immense costs in Russian soldiers. A new story today about how Russia is telling people at home that their sons have deserted and gone because they don't know how to tell the people about all the death and destruction that this war is causing on the Russian military. So I think that we see a Russian offensive that is very much, it's not stalled, I wouldn't use that word, it's grinding forward at a cost that no country in the world can truly support for a long time. The second thing I would say is that their real offensive right now is through the air. They are not their Air Force, that has failed, but the use of drones and rockets and things are now the only true offensive capability that Russia knows how to use. And they are building more and more capability, and frankly, they're building even better capability. Much like now, the United States is going to start giving electronic boards to Ukraine. China, Iran, and North Korea have been helping Russia to build better attack capabilities, and they are. They are building capabilities that are harder to shoot down. Second sort of big thing is that we see a very different military approach. And I think this is one of the things the West has not grasped yet, because if they did, they would embrace it. Russia is fighting what we call a counter value fight. Russia is taking its fight to the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian infrastructure. They're trying to essentially eliminate Ukraine as a country so they can once again subjugate it both militarily and politically. on the other side, Ukraine, if you look at the reporting, it's really straightforward. They are attacking the military and the military capability of Russia very precisely. This is called a counter force fight. Ukraine is doing a counter force attacking the Russian military. Russia is doing a counter value fight attacking the people of Ukraine. And so I wish and I hope and I continue to work to try to get everyone in the West, including our leadership, to understand the difference in the two and how we should react to it. Mm-hmm. As long as Ukraine continues to show discipline in a counterforce fight, we should change our policy to say, you may strike deeply with anybody's weapons, including ours, as far as policy goes. Mm-hmm. And then we begin to give them more and more of those capabilities. You brought up JASM. I don't know that that will ever have. I've heard a lot more talking about Tomahawk. So there are weapons that are in the conversation, but not on the agenda yet. And I think that we should do that.
Would you think that because President Trump did not specify that Ukraine cannot use some of these weapons to take out some military targets deep into Russia, that policies maybe has ended that we've had for the past 3.5 years?
So I believe that we have had this policy for a long time that we don't want we don't want the Ukrainian military to do to Russia what Russia's military has been doing to Ukraine for 11 years. And so we have limited Ukraine's ability to fire back deeply because we didn't want the war to escalate. Well, Mr. Putin has escalated. He has escalated on the escalations. He is firing from nearly all the points around the compass into Ukraine in hundreds and thousands, and we are telling Ukraine no. And so I think the first thing that needs to happen is a public, declaratory, loud and proud pronunciation by the West, to include the United States, that one, Mr. Putin, we are not going to allow you to win this war. And two, we are going to allow Ukraine to begin to carry on a deep counter-force fight.
And this is my final question to you, probably the most difficult question to answer. Knowing what we know right now, where do you think the war is going? Are we going to stalemate at some point, or do you see any different situation or scenario evolving?
So I will be criticized for what I'm about to say because there are a lot of people that disagree, but there are also some very deep thinking people who agree. And that is, the signs that I see on the battlefield is not about Russia winning this war. Everyone wants to say Russia's winning the war. I do not believe they are, and there are a lot of other people that don't. Let's just go over a few signs. Russia has got a manning problem that is incredible. They had to ask North Korea to send 30,000 North Korean troops to Russia to retake sovereign Russian land in the Kursk territory. And they have yet to do that. There are still Ukrainians holding Russian land. So Russia couldn't do it with their military. They had to ask the North Koreans to come help them. And now they still can't do it. Second thing, we're beginning to see their industry, especially their military industry, suffer from lack of manpower. And so what have we heard about recently? That the North Koreans are going to send people to man the industry segments where they are building these offensive capabilities to fire into Ukraine. So we have an army that can't even retake Russian land. We have an industry segment that now is hurting so badly that they're having to ask people to come in from outside of their country to man their industrial sites. And now we hear even a third a second time they're asking for more North Korean soldiers to come fight for them. Does that sound like an army that's winning? No, I don't think so. And the losses are incredible. I believe they're unsustainable. The sanctions have not, and never have changed Mr. Putin's opinion and how he runs the ground war. But they may soon begin to do that, especially if our president levies strict sanctions and then we enforce them. And the first thing I would do if I was enforcing the sanctions I would enforce one that's already out there that's being broken every day. Russia has a shadow fleet of, I think, now over 140 ships that are hauling oil around the world. I'd turn that off. I'd turn it off. So I think that this is a Russia that is not winning. Whether Ukraine is winning is also a debate. But the fact of the matter is, Russia is not winning this war right now.
General Breedlove, thank you very much for your thoughts and for your time. I really appreciate this.
Glad to be back with you.